to work, one whole day to play. Come on, everybody, wear your roller skates today. It's Saturday, 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 it's Saturday, Saturday, it's Saturday, Saturday, it's Saturday, yeah.
Hello friends, and welcome to another episode of Career Exploration Saturday. I'm your host, Ebony Tyler. I have real conversations with real people about real jobs. So big shout out to my friend Debbie, shout out Debs, for introducing me to today's guest, Krystal of Krystal Tantric Yogi. And if you watch my Instagram stories, you'll know that I am a yoga enthusiast. I put them on TikTok too, if you'll see them. All right. So I was so excited to talk to Krystal because Krystal is an entrepreneur and she is making a living because she followed her heart. We had a great conversation and Krystal dropped some jewels. Let's jump right in. Welcome, Krystal. Welcome to Career Exploration Saturday. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Thank you for inviting me, Ebony. I'm so excited to be here.
So, we start all the conversations. Tell us about who 16-year-old Krystal was. Did she have it all together? Did she know what she wanted to be when she grew up?
Oh my gosh, I'm 39 and I still don't have it all together. And I'm still trying to kind of figure out what I want to be when I grow up. No, I did not. But I was excited about life. I was playing sports. I think at the time I was still playing basketball and I was running track. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life, but I was very studious. I was very disciplined. I knew I wanted to make my parents proud. I think by that time I knew I was interested in psychology and I definitely knew I wanted to go to college, but that's probably about it.
So you went to Pine Bluff, right?
University, yes, I did.
So how did you make the decision to go to Arkansas? Because you grew up in Texas.
Yes, I did. I'm originally from Houston, Texas. And at the time of my senior year, I had a coach. He was actually a football coach, but he was very well connected with the HBCU network, historically Black colleges or universities. And he told me that if I ran a specific time in the 800 meters, that he could get me a full scholarship. And so I was very excited about that because I was kind of like a first generational college graduate. My mom, I think, did a little bit of college, but she didn't finish. And that whole process was a little overwhelming, but I always knew I was meant to go to college. And so I was like, cool. And I ran what I was supposed to run and I got a full ride and it was in Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Arkansas. So that's basically how I ended up there.
How is Arkansas? What's...
I know. Sometimes when I tell people I went to Arkansas, they're like, what is that? Where is that?
Right.
Yeah, it's the natural state. That's their motto. It's very country, but it's also I went to school down the Delta, so there's a lot of rich history and a lot of our culture. Where I went to school, it's probably, it's not too far from Memphis, so there's a lot of Memphis influence there, but it's a lot slower than New York City. And but there's what I loved about Pine Bluff and going to HBCU is that it was a Black town. And you saw Black doctors, Black attorneys, you had Black teachers. And I didn't grow up with that, seeing that in Houston, not that they weren't there, but just seeing a city run by Black people, I think was really important for me in my college experience. But yeah, there's not a whole lot in Arkansas, but that was the good thing about being in Pine Bluff for me.
I always say, going to an HBCU is the 4 years that you actually don't have to think about being Black, right? You could just put that to the side, show up however you want to be as a Black person, and then you get to experience all the other different ways to be Black. So, and being in a Black town, that sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, it's because it was nice to grow up in Houston where it was pretty diverse how I grew up in the school that I went into, even though it could be segregated somewhat where, the upper middle class kids are here and, working class people are here, but it's pretty, you know, it's good to be around diversity, but yeah, to see us running a city and kind of just how we interact just among us, I think was very, very important for me to see that, and not that just the people that were doing well seem to all be of a particular background or ethnicity, but to see that like Black people in all professions working together, running a city, and, you know, and having a university and doing all those things. I think it's really important for us, our people, to be able to see, yeah, we can do that. We don't need outside people for things to work. Like, we can work amongst each other and be very, very productive without outside help. Outside help and diversity is good, but it's also for us to know that we can do it ourselves.
Yeah, because we're going to save ourselves anyway, right?
Right. Yeah. We got to save our own communities for sure.
So you majored in biology. Why? Why did you major in biology? And like, did you want to be a doctor? Were you thinking pre-med? Because that's like my train of thought with biology. But, you know, share, how do you get from biology to yoga instructor?
I know, right? Life is funny. And I think it's a good story for your audience to know, because just because you major in something doesn't mean that life is going to be a linear path to specifically what you want to do, but it can be. And yes, again, I came in kind of undecided. And when I started to explore the different disciplines or majors, I just knew I still wasn't sure. And I think I didn't have a lot of confidence in just wanting to choose psychology. And I noticed that with biology, I could go into medical school and become a doctor. And I grew up watching the Cosbys, and I was like, whoa, I can be a doctor, you know, and I don't have to worry about selling myself or marketing anything. And I think that mindset was very, you know, that influenced me a lot, in that I wanted to be really productive. I wanted to make my parents proud. And then I did like science. I've always liked science. And so I was like, I think that sounds good, you know, like go to school for 4 years and 4 more years and be a doctor. I mean, that sounds like, you know, that sounds good. I'm helping people. And so, yeah, that was the plan. But I think what happened along the way is that, first of all, I got pregnant very early, my last semester. And so I started to think about what was kind of the best avenue for keeping my family together, and what profession works well, and just life happened. And so I kind of kept it in the back of my mind, because I could have went back to school, but I actually had a young daughter. My youngest daughter was diagnosed with autism, my second daughter, when she was about 3, and it made me look at the medical profession a little bit differently. There's also a lot of sacrifice that comes with going into medical school that I wasn't really sure, knowing. I think medicine is necessary, but there's a lot of arrogance in the medical industry. And I understood how much holistic health was really important when it comes to my child and her needs, and really all of us. When you're talking about like these chronic diseases like cancer and stuff that they have not solved, it's because there's a lot of underlying issues that medicine just doesn't correct or solve. It just kind of, you know, treats the symptoms. And it's a big pharmaceutical run industry. The medical industry is. So I started to get more into just mind, body, and holistic practices. And it kind of sent me down a rabbit hole of discovering yoga kind of intuitively. And I think that's important for young people to know as well. Like, you can have a plan, and it's important to have a plan. It's important to think about logic, but you also sometimes have to follow your heart. And sometimes the biggest lessons are learned when you do go off the path, and whatever your heart is telling you that the world might need, just like with the pandemic. Who knew that we were going to have, you know, coronavirus come and just really shift everything? And that's when you have to trust your intuition to know that if something is calling you to do something, that means your ancestors, your divinity, God, whatever you believe in, there might be a reason why. And I feel like me veering off a path into yoga and holistic health is a great place for me to be now that so much is adjusting, and we're having so much adjustments with a pandemic and everything that's going on with our economy. So, you know, sometimes, you know, the straight and narrow path of choosing something because it sounds good and makes good money. You know, you want to be in that mindset to a certain extent, but you also need to follow your intuition, and you need to be comfortable and confident with what really is pulling you as you grow, because you just never know what's going to happen. And there's a lot of systems set in place that have a history of really not taking care of our communities properly, whether it be medically, whether it be in the law or business. There's a lot of immoral practices going on that are really helping us. So if your creativity and your intuition is telling you, you know, I think that going to school is important, but to get a good, you know, education and foundation. But if you're feeling like there's something more outside of that, explore that. You know, that's important too.
So yoga. Tell us about being a yoga instructor. So do you just like roll out the mat every day and do some poses and teach people? Is that it? Or because I know there's a lot of training involved to be able to do that.
Yeah, yoga is a science. So I'm still really into science. It's not just about stretching. It's also about, you know, how we build awareness through our body and connect with our mind. It's about breath work. It's also meditative. There's also a whole kind of cultural and historical background to yoga. There's a whole language when it comes to different poses besides just the layman's terms that we learn in English.
Right.
And it teaches you about just different ways to build your own awareness psychologically, emotionally, and physically. Like we want it, it's a holistic practice. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of what people are familiar with is the poses, and even just practicing the poses is really important because you are kind of checking out on your body regularly and seeing, you know, is my back okay? Is my arms okay? How's my chest feeling? And if it's not, you know, what am I doing that's making it not feel okay? Like really taking care of the body as a separate entity and gift and caring for it, not just doing an exercise so it looks aesthetically pleasing to you and somebody else, but really honoring it and you know, and what God gave you to kind of be a vehicle for you to live this life and allowing it to kind of expand your thoughts, you know, as you care for it, because there's a lot of wisdom, natural wisdom in the body. I always say that your body can play tricks on you, but the mind can play tricks on you, but the body never lies. So when you can really get in tune with why you're feeling a certain way, why you're hurting, and explore that, the body can teach you a lot. So yeah, but it is, I took yoga teacher training in 2011. And that's 200 hours of learning asana, which is postures, history, anatomy. There's several hours in different disciplines to become like a certified 200-hour yoga teacher.
So I have a bias that I'm going to share, is that I do not do yoga with people who are not of color. I just do not do it. Because I feel that they don't necessarily understand the Black woman's body, and that some of these poses just, I got a booty. It's not, I can't do it. So, you know, why are you trying to make me do that? I don't feel comfortable on the mat being led by, you know, non-people of color. So that's something that I do for myself. But do you think that there's any bias in that? Or do you think that maybe that's important to be able to do or to practice, you know, yoga, and to practice your body with people who look like you, because they may have like a little bit more of an understanding of the way you are shaped?
I think that it's less about the way that you're shaped and more about like an inclusive community. So a lot of times with white people, and I have white friends, and I'm actually working with a white friend that's an online friend that's helping me work on my core, because I hate working on core, but she's very knowledgeable in that area. more so than I am, and she's very, very sweet. But I think with the yoga community in general, and with white people, a lot of times, like they do with a lot of stuff, they hijack other people's culture, they whitewash it, and then they make themselves the standard. And so it's like a superiority thing. Like I look like this when I do this posture, so this is how you should look as well. But not everybody in the yoga community is like that, but you do have a lot like that. Like when you watch TV, or you're looking at a magazine, or you're buying videos or whatever, trying to learn, you have a lot of that. And I think a lot of that is, some of that is intentional with marketing, because they're trying to get people to buy into the yoga stuff, and they want to hold the standard and get people to say, you need to look like this, or you need to buy these clothes, and you better have this type of mat. And a lot of marketing, it's a business. It's $1 billion business, the yoga industry is. And then some of it is just, they can culturally, white people can be unaware that they are setting the standards and being superior, and not being inclusive, and making other people that have different body types, different skin colors, different cultures feel uncomfortable. So I do think representation is very, very important. I do think, though, that no matter what type of body you have, it doesn't mean that, like, if you have a nice round bubbly butt, it doesn't mean that you're not able to do a posture just because it doesn't look like someone who is slimmer and maybe has a flatter bottom. I think that, but I do think that representation is very important, and it's important for you to feel comfortable and feel included and feel like whoever is teaching you cares for you and wants you there. Yeah. So in a lot of cases, if you have someone culturally that understands you better, you're probably going to feel a little bit more included and more comfortable. A lot of times in places that are less diverse, or don't have people of color teaching somewhere, they're not going to be aware of the things to say and their energy to make sure that people of color like us feel included and feel safe, and that they care. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to be around other people of color in order to know how to make people of color feel well. So sometimes having a teacher, if they need to at least be in the facility, they need to be in the facility, need to be around if they're not teaching you. Yeah, I think that's best.
So you also teach Tantra Yoga. Am I saying it correct?
Yes, you are.
Yes, okay. You are. And can you tell us a little bit about what Tantra Yoga is?
Sure. So yoga is a science. It's also spiritual science, meaning that it doesn't just have to do, like in the Western world, science usually have to do with hardcore facts, meaning you have to physically present as evidence in order for it to be true. But when you start to get into spirituality and ancient sciences, and it's not just yoga, it's, African spirituality, Native American spirituality, they believed in energy as well. And energy can't always be seen. Sometimes it's felt. You think about Pocahontas and the colors of the wind, and she feeling things. If y'all remember the Disney movie, or if you think about Taoism, the ancient Chinese, and martial arts, they talk about Tai Chi. Some of those things that they teach are not just things that you can see, it's things that you can feel and things that come from within. So that's the spiritual side of the science. So yoga is spiritual science, and Tantra is as well. It's, I guess you could say it's like kind of like a style of yoga, but not quite. It's kind of older than kind of the modern take on what we know yoga is today. And Tantra is about, I guess the simplest way, because there's a lot of different definitions of Tantra, but I think the best way to explain to your audience is that it's about combining spirituality and sexuality and love in a way that helps expand your consciousness, or helps you make you be a better person. So the idea is that we include all aspects of life in order to become better people. Like we don't try to not say that sex is bad or say that it's wrong. We try to bring spirituality and morality to the things that we enjoy so that there's a balance and we grow from there. And Tantra is a science, a spiritual science that kind of revolves around that theme. Did that make sense?
No. It does. It does. So how did you become involved in wanting to help people with this practice?
Yeah, so wanting to help people with like their sensuality and their sexuality in a spiritual way, actually just through my own involvement. So if you can remember, I told you that I got, life happened and I got pregnant right out of college and became a mother. And so because things kind of didn't go the way I thought they were going to go, I kind of was always seeking, you know, like, what am I supposed to do? How is this going to work? Me being a mother, where's my career going? And I was always seeking answers. And also, if you are a young woman and a 16-year-old young lady may be watching this, you know, you may have been taught you need to save yourself, or that your sexuality is for, you know, making sure you can get a boyfriend or whatever, like your beauty and your sensuality is to be attractive to somebody, but not necessarily for yourself. Yeah. And when you don't explore not just sexuality in the sense of not getting pregnant and saving yourself for marriage, or not getting STD, but no understanding emotionally, what does that mean for you as a woman or a young woman, or what do you like, or how do you take care of that psychological and emotional side, and even the spiritual side of your own sacred femininity and sexuality and spirituality. If you don't do that, you kind of are immature in knowing what you like and choosing, you know, the best lover or partner for your for intercourse or for relationships, whether you want to be long-term or short. And that's kind of what happened to me. And I realized that, you know, with being married and having a kid, like, oh, I never really fully matured as a sexual woman. And I also was having some pelvic floor issues, and I was having, because I started running again, and I had some pelvic floor and hip issues. And in Tantra, we learned that energetically, when you have issues with your hips or in your pelvic floor, sometimes there's an issue with your sexual center or your sexual energy. And I had a lot of repressed energy that was not mature because I got pregnant and got married so quickly and never really matured mentally, emotionally in that way. There was an imbalance there. And so I started to explore that. And as I started to explore and learn, it was very powerful for me. And it also, it didn't just help me, you know, heal my hips and heal, you know, like me maturing as a woman, but it made me more creative. It made me more insightful. It affected a lot of different areas of my life spiritually that I did not expect. And so I started to share this practice on social media, and a lot of other people, especially women who may have experienced sexual trauma or having issues with their relationship, were very, very interested in what I had to share and learn, because they had never really heard of like a spiritual side of sexuality or the importance of maturing your sexuality so that your life can be better. And so you can address some deeper issues that may have gone unresolved from like your childhood and things. And so I kind of developed a business to meet those needs, that people who were interested in talking and sharing and learning more about, you know, this aspect of life.
I like that. So how has your business changed since COVID?
Ironically, the only thing that's changed is that I do some trainings. I know you may want to talk about the sex doula training that I do. That had to be converted from in-person to online. I haven't been able to do like any workshops or any yoga classes, because I do just teach regular yoga classes too. But a lot of my work, because my business started from my social media page, was already online. So it wasn't a huge transition, except for the fact that I was starting to travel and do workshops and trainings. And then that stuff has to be converted online, which actually works well for people still, you know. So that's probably been the biggest change. Just like everybody else, you know, there's social distancing, things convert to online instead of in person. But I'm glad that, it's very, it's easily done through Zoom and, other platforms.
So a sexual doula, it sounds salacious, but it's not. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so if you haven't heard of a doula before, usually a doula is someone who assists someone when they're in during pregnancy and during labor, meaning when they're having the baby, and then afterwards. And they don't deliver the baby, but they assist in the mother's needs all the way through pregnancy and postpartum, with just anything that they might need in relevance to them, taking care of themselves as they're going through motherhood. So a sex doula is someone who helps assist in healing practices that have to do with healing their sexuality. There's so many different disciplines to explore, and there's a lot out there when it comes to, relationship advice and sex advice. And, and a lot of times when people go to psychologists, when they've gone through trauma, or maybe if they just have different relationships, it's very clinical. And they don't always include like the cultural teachings. Like you have Black Muslims, and you have African spiritual teachings on sexuality and relationships that may not get brought up, in a clinical psychologist's office or space. Right. And so what we do, me and another young woman who actually has, I think, over 20 years experience in midwifery, is that we take her experience in training doulas, because she trains doulas, and she's also a Black woman. We get together and we take her experience from helping mothers, because what she discovered was that women who have issues with their sexuality usually also end up having issues with labor and delivery. Wow. Because they have issues with their reproductive system. So they don't want people touching them. They don't want people seeing them. And then any type of trauma that you may have experienced sexually before you were pregnant can come up again, especially during the delivery process, and make it harder. So she was like, I need to address this issue within the realm of motherhood. And me also being a mother too, you understand that just because you're a mother or a woman, even if you're not a mother, since we're talking to young people, like it's good to be a good daughter, a good friend, a good sister, this idea, that we're wholesome, but you also have a sensual side to yourself, and you need to be comfortable with that, be able to define that for yourself and know what feels good to you. You deserve, within the realm of your own ethics, that you decide for yourself once you've learned, what keeps you safe and what boundaries are important for you and whoever you're with, to be able to develop that for yourself so that you can live a holistic and healthy life, period. Like you can't just let somebody else define it for you. You can't let religion do it. You can't let your parents do it. At some point, once you've taken in the information and gotten the advice, you have to figure that out for yourself to be a happy and whole person. You need to know what makes you happy. You need to know what's pleasurable to you. You need to be comfortable with your body. So combined with her experience and my experience with yoga, mind body practices, and, my background in Tantra, we came together to create a training that helps assist people in this realm of work that's not just clinical or, or whatever else might be out there, because there's a lot of stuff out there, but it's something that's unique because of our background is unique. And that's how we that's how it blossomed or was developed. Wow. Yeah.
So how can we support you? How can we get some sexual doula in our life if we need some? Because some of the parents may be having some issues, or need to push past some things in their 40s. How do we support you?
Well, if you're thinking about training, and a lot of people and a lot of women that do take the training, because this is so you can help other people, but a lot of people take the training and it's very therapeutic. So, it ends up being a therapeutic process, and like, when's the next one? So we usually have a second one so that people can we're going to have a second one so that people can actually be comfortable training. But yeah, it's very therapeutic for you when you're taking it, because we talk a lot, we unpack a lot, we share, we listen to each other's stories, we have exercises and other things, and you work with yourself. You know, that way you know how you want to work with someone else. We give the information, we work on ourselves, and it's a lot of fun. A lot of self-exploration happens in healing amongst a lot of minority women. All women are welcome, but it's special because even with Tracy, the lady that I am partnering with, the focus is Black women for the most part. You know, like it's open to everybody, but that's who we market to mostly. So we have a unique kind of space that we create between me and her. So the next one is at the end of January. I need to put it on my website, but I think it's a 3-day training. It's about 8 hours a day, and I think it's the 29th through the 31st is the next one. And if you follow me on Instagram, I'm KRYSTAL_Tantric Yogi. My website is krystaltantricyogi.com. So you can follow me for that. But I'm also going to have a women's intensive that they're going to be able to register for. Because what I found with the sex doula training, it's really not enough time to really we do a lot of good work. Yeah. But for women who are looking for something where we can really start to work on ourselves a little bit longer and like talk every day and do yoga every day and combine the sensual healing with the things that can really give you the tools to start to really work on this stuff. I'm going to be offering that coming up in December. I'm going to put it on my website so women can register. It's going to be a 21-day like sexual healing intensive program for women, you know, so I'm working on that. It will be up very, very soon. So you just have to follow me and go to my website. I will announce it and create a flyer for it. You can also email me, Krystal@krystaltantricyogi.com for more information. And I'll make sure that when I do have registration available, I can send it to you. So
yes, and we'll put all these links. We'll tag you in the video and put your website. Absolutely. Yes. Mm-hmm. Krystal.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. This was so much fun. I'm always amazed by people wanting to listen to me talk about myself. So, so I appreciate you being patient and listening to everything that I have to say, inviting me on.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Krystal. So some takeaways are: success is not linear. It's okay to veer off the path and follow your heart. The biggest lessons can be learned when you follow your heart. Trust your intuition. Your ancestors are calling you to do something. You listening? Because I'm listening. 2, we have to know what we want out of life and out of pleasure. Women, we are sexual beings. We are sensual beings. We need to heal by releasing that repressed sexual energy. And 3 is seeing Black people in positions of leadership. It matters. Subconsciously, that stuff seeps into you and it matters. Thank you so much, Krystal. And welcome to the Liberated Success family. Folks, you need to take a class with Krystal. I have. It is 75 minutes of connecting with your mind, your body, and your spirit. She has classes on Tuesdays on Zoom, and she has a new bed yoga class. You really need to hit that link and get some of this tantric yoga in your life. So listen, thank you. Thank you for watching and listening all the way to the end. Don't forget to check out our website, liberatedsuccess.org. Make sure you check out the resources page where I have a repository of community resources for high school and college students, parents, and educators. Now listen, educators have been hitting me up and they've been sharing that they love these career conversations. So please, if you want to share your career journey, please hit that link in my bio to schedule a conversation. It's right there. You got my calendar. Boom, boom, boom. We'll connect and let's make it happen, right? It's all done over Zoom at home at a time that you are available, right? Based on your schedule. So we really need to continue to share our journey with our young people. So if you find our work informative, impactful, and important, show us some love with a donation. The link is in my bio on IG and Twitter. It's the first comment on Facebook. And if you're listening on the podcast, you can make a donation via listener support. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast, follow us on IG, Facebook, and Twitter. So what a week. A shout out to President Biden. Shout out to VP Harris. Shout out to Michelle Obama for the constant slayage. And oh my gosh, a shout out to Amanda Gorman. Outstanding. And you know what? Let's not forget my dude Bernie. Y'all know I've always loved Bernie Sanders. He's got soft hands. Have I ever told you the story about how I shook Bernie Sanders' hand and gave his wife a pin that said it said something about we can't trust 45, get rid of him, something like that. I don't even remember. We made pins and we gave them out, and I gave one to Bernie Sanders' wife. Anyway, so listen, folks. President Biden and Harris is in the White House, but we still have to hold them accountable, right? We need to push them to get them to do the things that we need done. And the first thing we need is COVID, stimulus, and forgive these student loans. Like, I know that they can walk and chew gum at the same time, hold 45 accountable, and get stuff done for us, right? So let's not get comfortable. And remember, if you recognize these insurrectionists, call the FBI and turn their asses in. All right? Wear your mask. Wash your hands, physically distance, and all Black Lives Matter. See you next week.
One